before you start, we got to tell you to take your shirt off, man. We got to see if you're wearing a wire, man. We got, you know.
The shirt comes off for very few people, believe me. It's a joke. It's a joke to everyone that The Wire never won an Emmy for Outstanding Drama Series, and only has 2 nominations to its name. And so, you know, in hindsight, in your opinion, what season do you think really should have won the Emmy for best drama?
Well, it's interesting because you are. What's interesting is how many different responses you get to that question. Because I always ask it when people say people come up and, as they do a lot, saying they loved it. I say which season, and it's always different, and it's very rarely, I mean, it's not very rarely, but it's not often the season which I think was stand out, which is season 4. And I think because it's about so much more of an emotive, because it's about kids, so it's so much more dramatic and emotive, and the stakes are so much higher, and because those actors who were playing those kids were so brilliant. So and also because I'm hardly in it, but I do think season 4 was the high point, was perfection.
You happy now, bitch? I'm content, yes.
It was meant to be a book that David persuaded Ed not to write, and so it was the perfect coming together of that writer's room as well, I think.
I personally, I only personally have a favorite season because of my experience as an actor was so different in season 4 when Prez went into the schools. So that was far and away my favorite season. But as a consumer of the series, I liked every season as well as the next. You know.
Yeah, it's tough to choose. Honestly, they're all so perfect.
I'm a season 4 man. I'm just gonna say, yeah, season 4 was the shit.
That is
the greatest season of dramatic television ever.
Fourth. I'm very passionate about early childhood education and just, you know, shining a light on the disparity between certain communities getting a great education and or not. You know, having a child in private school and or not having a child in private school, and seeing the difference in education and the passion of the teachers and the professors, and you know, and the resources that all should have.
I asked that question in every room, and 4th was the answer to
the 4th season was a show. Like, listen, the show in its conception, I remember talking to David Simon. It's a cop show. That's what the mindset was. How to get the pitch across. It was a cop show. But when the 4th season came, it became a social show about, you know, middle class, and the school system is everybody's favorite season.
Absolutely.
For many reasons.
I think we take for granted the fact that you guys were able to film in Baltimore and not like Vancouver or Toronto standing in for it, or God forbid a set someplace. And so if you can, looking back on it now, just talk about how filming in Baltimore affected your performance and the impact of the show.
Oh, would anybody ever want to leave Baltimore? That's what I'm asking.
Well, it was crucial for me because, you know, people have said, you know, your accent was good and you were believable. If I hadn't been in that city, there's no way I'd have been able to understand what the hell The Wire was about, because it was more than anything, The Wire was about Baltimore, and it was David and Ed's most successful show, probably because it was about the thing they knew most, which was they knew Baltimore so well, and so did all the other writers from Zorzi and everyone else who worked on the Baltimore Sun. So it was absolutely crucial.
The places we lived too, as a bunch of us, you know, lived in apartments on Charles Street or Calvert Street, and you know, so we were living close to some of the neighborhoods that were depicted in the show, and it got into our, you know, it was just in the air we were breathing, you know, to the point where I can't even think of examples. It was more just like the atmosphere. It was the accents and the way where people spoke. It was the kids on the street that reminded me of kids in the classrooms in season 4, or the cops, or the just folks of the city. You know, it was very much, as you say, a character in the show, or the character of the show, and gave the show its character. And I don't think David Simon could have done it any differently. You know, yeah, there were timeless and universal messages about institutions and corruption and the individual in society, but it was also, you know, very, very specific to his own experience in that city.
No, I mean, we've been incredibly lucky with HBO that they've never asked us to chase the, incentive money or go somewhere. We've always been able to film where our stories take place, in New Orleans and in New York and in Baltimore, which is a luxury to be able to do that. There were politicians from time to time that, wanted us to maybe not film in Baltimore because they thought we were presenting a negative portrayal of the city.
Yeah, that happened. The mayor, after season 1, the mayor said he wanted to be out of the wire business. And the problem was, before season 1, before we even shot the pilot, I actually went to that mayor and said, look, this could be any Rust Belt city. I could stage this in Philadelphia, St. Louis, Cleveland. It just needs to be a post-industrial city that's struggling with the same problems. And I actually went to lunch with him to talk about it. And he, no, bring it here. We want the TV. I said, you sure? Yeah, sure. Cut to a year and a half later, he's running for governor, or wanted to run for governor at the time. And he looked upon this very blunt show that was critiquing the drug war harshly as an albatross. And I don't know what he wanted us to do. He wanted us to stop, basically.
Right.
And I said, well, okay, I'll go. We'll shoot this in Philly. But I have a season, I can't suddenly make them Philadelphia police. We started the story. Remember I had lunch with you? And
yeah,
eventually, upon realizing that we were going to make it anyway, because we had started and we were going to try to finish it, and the filming money would go to another city, he relented.
Yeah, I always say, Baltimore was the best character on the show. And I think, for it to be a space where everybody was coming from different neighborhoods. I'm from the Bronx, Jamie's from Brooklyn, we had cats come from London. We had people come from all different spectrums of their own kind of hood or their own kind of understanding of what middle class or those neighborhoods might look like.
Sure.
And then Baltimore had a different feel. It was a different despair that I never felt in any place else that I had traveled to, that made Baltimore a place that we all felt grounded and we all got a sense of what was important about this story. And it wasn't us. Like, this is the first time when actors get a show. For a lot of us, it's our first serious regular job. We're like this, can't wait to be on camera. Yeah. We can't wait to see what kind of lines I got. Like, who's gonna have the dope scene? But all that went away. Once we got there, we recognized this is not about us. It's about this story. It's about these messages that we're trying to bring out and bring forth on a certain awareness. And I don't think we would have held ourselves to a higher standard of accountability if we was on a set somewhere.
How many times have you been arrested as an adult, Mr. Little?
Sure, I done lost count. No, don't have to take it personal.
Wendell, not to ignore Reg Cathy or Robert Chu, who are all excellent on the show, but it just really feels like an anniversary celebration at this time is incomplete without Michael K. Williams participating. And so when I bring him up and his contributions to the show, what comes to mind?
The fact that he had an immense talent to give voice to the human condition. That's what I always think about with Michael. He had an immense talent to give voice to the human condition. And there's no way that you could look at any of the characters that he created, but especially Omar, and not see the complexity of the man and the complexity of the character that he created, and the empathy that specificity, kind of induces in people. Clearly a character a lot of people think is the best, one of the fan favorites, and it was the fact that the more specific you are, the more universal your work has impact. And that was the thing that I think of with Michael. Really, really talented man. Miss him dearly.
Like, what comes to mind when I mention him and his work on the program?
Wow. I can't believe this is catching me by surprise. Because you would think that we'd be asked about that. But it's catching me by surprise. Wow. He was, God damn it. Sorry.
It's fine.
He was such that character was so special in so many ways. So iconic to be an openly gay gangster that's not a cartoon, that was so three-dimensional that you cared for him at every moment, and the way that he played it. The fact that even though he was a gangster, he operated from such an extreme strict code of personal integrity that he almost seemed like a hero.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, it's fine. I totally understand.
The thing I always remember at Michael is the thing, and it's maybe selfish of me because there's so much to him, and he lived such a life, and he's such a talent. But as a writer and as somebody who's trying to shepherd a big, unwieldy, universal show about a lot of things in Baltimore and a lot of things in American life. When we went to that second season, and so much of the second season was devoted to the death of work in America and the decline of the working class in the port, Michael looked at the first scripts and he came into my office and he said, why are you running away from the show we were building in first season? And I thought I misapprehended. I work with a lot of actors and I thought, he's counting lines and he doesn't have as much work.
Right.
And instead he very much pulled me up and said, no, I don't care about the number of lines. I want to know what you're doing.
Right.
And so I realized I have to talk him through what the plan is and why it's the plan and why I think it's the right thing to do. And then he became this incredible ally of the entirety of the show, he basically became an ambassador for All the Pieces Matter. And I was really grateful for him. He went back to the other actors and said, they know what they're doing. I'm not sure he was always believed, but he believed. And he came in before every season and I had the same kind of conversation with him every time of, this is what we're going to do. This is the theme. And then he was rock solid. He was never a guy. He was for everybody on that show. He was for everybody.
It's emotional, but we miss him. There was a fearlessness. There was a responsibility to his work and to the importance of the message of the work that he embraced so much. Compassion to just getting the story right, and not only getting the story right, but getting your place as an artist. When you're in position to help or to share or to be impactful, to lift somebody else up, you do so. That's just the chain of humanity that we're supposed to look out for each other. And he embodied that. We lost a lot of dear, we love Reggie Cathy, Prop Joe, Fran Boyd, who was my mentor for Bubbles this past, Bob Colesbury. Like, we were losing people and we keep losing people. And it just reminds us of how impactful or how blessed we are, humbled that we had the ability to share that moment with each other and do this story and tell this story. And, as long as people keep talking about The Wire and keep talking about how important the show is, his name will live on because he was a part of that show.
A man got to have a code.
Mr. Simon, have there been any times since the show has gone off the air when an event has happened in real life and you thought, man, I really wish we were still doing The Wire right now, just to have a way to sort of comment on it?
We just had a traumatic but extremely relevant story happen in Baltimore in the milieu of The Wire, which is to say the Gun Trace Task Force scandal and the coverage of that. And we found a way to do it as a miniseries. So without doing violence to the narrative that The Wire created. Mm-hmm. So when something comes up and we feel like it's relevant to there's always another way in. So no, not really. I would say that, and I've said this before, were there a couple of themes on American life that we could have explored in The Wire that I thought were always there? My late friend David Mills suggested immigration. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, he suggested it after we were gearing up to shoot season 4. And we've been off the air for like a year and a half already.
Right.
And once you shot 4 and 5, because of the bodies in the vacant and the fact that we wanted to end on a critique of the media culture and media culture having ignored all the problems of the previous 4 seasons, we weren't going to tack immigration onto the end, nor did I think HBO wanted to hear much more from us at that point. So it wasn't going to happen. But I remember when he said it, I thought to myself, yeah, because that's a fault line in American society. I would have loved to have done a season on immigration. In Baltimore, we had a lot of Latino new arrivals in Southeast Baltimore. and they were changing the nature of the city in interesting ways, and it would have been an interesting season. But
someone stopped me and said, I love The Wire. I love everything about The Wire. I have one disappointment. I wish you would have done one season about healthcare. And when they said that, I thought, man, that would have been a really brilliant season. And so that's what I think of. And then the other thing I think of is I actually convinced David to do a movie, to do the prequel of The Wire, of how Stringer and Barksdale got together and took over the towers from another family. And the head of that other family was going to be Samuel Jackson.
What?
And I really convinced him. And then we did a round table somewhere, and Richard Price, I'll never forget, said, if David does a movie of The fucking Wire, I'll disown him. And David was like, yeah, you're right. You know, I was like,
really?
Oh my God. Yes, we were doing a New York Times round table. And I was like, damn, thank you, Mr. Price, Mr. Clockers, who his book was made into a movie. Oh, I was so mad.
You know what? Right now it would be interesting to tackle trafficking of guns. Because one thing I've always heard my entire life is there's no gun factory in New York. But where are all the guns coming from? And I would love to see the tackle of firearms and The Wire tackling that subject.
All right, Lance, I'll get you out of here on this one. So you told me your favorite season. Do you have a pick if I asked you to tell me the best episode of The Wire?
Wow. It's like say, what's the best Rembrandt painting ever? I mean, I don't know. Jeez. And I've seen it 3 times. You stumped me. I don't know.
The correct answer is all of them.
Okay.
As someone who's lucky enough to interview talent, a junket for The Wire is a bucket list item I never thought I'd get to cross off. So thank you both for your time, and I'm a huge, huge fan.
I got the shotgun. Got the briefcase. It's on the game though, right?